Hello, this is Keith Kreischer, the Executive Director of the IoT M2M Council. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to track one within our event, the Consumer IoT Summit, presented by the IMC. The topic for this particular track is IoT and consumer healthcare. But first, we'll have a short presentation from the Consumer Technology Association about the upcoming Consumer Electronics Show in January in Las Vegas, of course. You can see the full schedule for this and other tracks in the resources section of your interface. I'll be introducing our moderator for today's conference track, my good friend Robin Duke-Woolley of Beecham Research, in just a moment. But before we begin, we wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets that you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The webcast is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear the presenter. If your slides are delayed, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues located in the Help widget at the bottom of your screen. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available later today and can be accessed using the same audience link sent to you earlier. If you have any questions during the webcast, this is important. If you've got questions, you can submit them through the Q&A widget at any time. The presenters may answer questions at the end of each session, but please feel free to ask while the presentations are ongoing. And please, never fear. If we don't get to your question during the live session, we will have a record of it tied to your registration, and we will answer your question offline. Before I move on to our subject, I'd just like to say a quick word about the IMC for those of you attending the session that might not know us. The IoT M2M Council is the largest professional organization dedicated to the IoT sector, comprised of 25,000 individual enterprise users, product makers and OEMs, and apps developers that deploy IoT solutions in the field. We call them our adopter members, and they join the IMC for access to our content, which includes the most extensive online library of use cases, white papers, and ebooks, news articles, blogs, template RFPs, and other sources of guidelines, and of course, our on-demand events. Important to note that our adopter members come to us from 27 different vertical markets of application. Everything from automotive manufacturing to energy and utilities to medical devices to retail point of sale. They're also based all over the globe. Only 30% of our rank and file adopter members come from North America, though all of our content is in English, and the rest are fairly evenly dispersed on every continent. The IMC Board of Governors is comprised of about 35 companies that provide IoT solutions. We call them sustaining member companies, and they join the IMC for exclusive access to our community for purposes of thought leadership, lead generation, promotion, and research. Our mission at the IMC is to accelerate the adoption of IoT technology for the public good by bringing our adopters and our sustainers together. And we look at today's conference track on healthcare IoT as exactly in keeping with that mission. Quick word about CES. Everybody knows CES, right? What you may not know is that CES has become the largest IoT event in the world, as far as we're concerned. It's long been known as an event for technology innovation in crucial IoT sectors like automotive, health and wellness, and smart home. But more recently, CES has become the major gathering of the year for IoT infrastructure, for smart cities, and for AI and machine learning and robotics. I like to think the IMC's partnership with the CTA has something to do with that. We'll be organizing IoT Week at CES, as always, where we'll be working with the show to produce conference programming, recording interviews and panels on the show floor, hosting networking and press events, and of course, organizing the IoT Infrastructure Pavilion in the North Hall of the LVCC. Please join us for that. And with that, I'd like to introduce John Kelly of the CTA, who'll give us a 5-minute presentation on what to expect at the show this January. John, please take us away.
Thanks to the IoT M2M Council for inviting me to share an update on CES 2023 and how the Internet of Things is driving innovation on the CES show floor. I'm John Kelly, Vice President and Acting Show Director for CES. Now, I've spoken at a number of events over the past 6 weeks, and I've been amazed by the incredible momentum and excitement that's building around the show. People are thrilled to be back together again, showing off innovations in fields like smart home, automotive, and digital health. And we're on track to welcome over 100,000 attendees to CES in Las Vegas in January. So let's jump right into what you can expect to see at this year's show. I'm excited to share that CES 2023, as of right now, is 50% larger than CES 2022, with more than 2 million net square feet of exhibition space across all of our venues. And we're still growing, adding new exhibitors every day. Our exhibitors include over 300 of the Fortune 500 companies and dozens of the world's top retailers. You'll see big-name companies on the show floor like Amazon, Bosch, AMD, Google, LG, Microsoft, Samsung, and Sony, just to name a few. But for those of you that have been to CES before, you know that our show is a story of both large companies and the small. We're also thrilled to welcome some 1,000 startups at Eureka Park at CES, which is our area for startups, as well as nearly 1,000 new exhibitors making their CES debut. Now, these companies represent the best of innovation from countries around the globe. We're also excited about some of the big growth trends that we're seeing on the show floor. Now, one such trend is digital health. With healthcare in the global spotlight, digital health and wellness is one of our fastest growing areas at CES. This has been fueled by the global surge in funding over the past several years. IoT is empowering consumers and giving them more control over their health data and driving better health outcomes. You can see this in innovations like real-time links between wearables and smartphones. These innovations make virtual doctor's office visits more impactful for patients and their doctors. IoT technology also supports advanced robotics, like robots from UK Engineering, which provide additional support and monitoring in assisted living facilities. Another big trend for CES the past several years is smart home technology. After several years in which we've all spent more time at home, it's no surprise that people continue to invest in tech products that make their homes more comfortable. And increasingly, the systems behind these devices are delivering personalized and customized experiences. We'll see that principle play out in products like Samsung's SmartThings Cooking, which recommends personalized recipes based on your preferences. You also see these innovations on a wider scale, presented by smart city exhibitors like No Traffic, which has pioneered an IoT platform designed to reduce city congestion, and Smart Geotech, a Korean company with an IoT sensor to detect landslides. Now, for all you foodies, CES 2023 will highlight everything from meal kits and plant-based proteins to vertical farming, sustainability, and more. You'll see an enormous expansion in the IoT food-driven technology, everything from robotic chefs that can learn and produce your favorite recipe to autonomous kiosks that can serve up a steaming bowl of ramen 24/7. And last but certainly not least, one of my favorite areas of the show is automotive. CES 2023 will be one of the largest automobile showcases of mobile tech in the world. And last but certainly not least, one of my favorite areas of the show, automotive. CES 2023 will be one of the largest showcases of automotive and mobility tech in the world. Nearly 300 automobile and mobility brands will be featured in our entirely sold-out West Hall. And you're going to see big global brands like BMW, and GM, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, and Volkswagen, alongside some new and exciting entrants into the mobility space like Ouster, which produces the cutting-edge semiconductors and hardware needed for self-driving vehicles. We're also seeing automobile manufacturers take advantage of new innovations like digital twins, and this is used to create virtual spaces for research and development. And it's not just autos. We'll also have a new category in the West Hall focused on marine technology. You'll see IoT innovations that allow users to monitor power usage in boats. And it's no accident that we've grouped all these exhibitors in areas like vehicle tech, transportation, near the digital health and smart cities and resilience, because all these technologies feed into the larger IoT ecosystem. And we know that innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's the engagement and interaction that happen between different industries and partnerships between companies that are driving consumer technology forward. So I hope I've given you a little bit of flavor of what we're expecting at CES this coming January. And it's not just the incredible devices, but the systems behind them, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and robotics, 5G, and more, that are driving some of the most world-changing innovations. And for those of you that have not already registered, I hope I've persuaded you to join us this coming January in Las Vegas. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And with that, I would like to turn to my good friend, Robin Duke-Woolley, CEO and founder of Beecham Research, certainly one of the most influential analyst and research firms in the IoT sector. Robin, good morning or good afternoon to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Keith. Welcome to this healthcare IoT panel session. And I've got with me Curtis Govan, President of Americas for FlowLive, Ritesh Patel, who's Head of Product Marketing at Aeris, and then we've got Christy Swanson, who is Senior Vice President of Connected Health at Core. So I'm going to ask each of these panelists to give a very short presentation just after I've been speaking to introduce their companies and introduce their perspective on healthcare, where they're coming from on healthcare. And then we're going to have a discussion, a series of discussions about healthcare, and I'll come back to the format of that when we get to it. After that, we'll be opening the session to Q&A. So if you want to start asking questions, do feel free to do that on your keypad, and we'll get to your questions at that part of the session. So let's move forward. Now I'm going to just do a very brief introduction of a couple of slides just to set the scene before I hand over to Curtis for his slides. So this is just a very brief introduction to Beecham Research for those of you who may not be familiar with us. We are a technology market research analysis and consulting firm based in London, UK, and we operate globally, especially in the US. We have an office in the US as well. We were established in 1991, but we've been specializing in IoT and M2M for just over 20 years. We work throughout the value chain. The majority of our work is single client custom projects. And we are also creating a series of free to download 100-odd page, roughly about 100-page reports in our Succeed with IoT series. These are all featured at our website, beechamresearch.com, and more details and links to reports are available for free download. See the resources section that you can download from. There are two reports in particular. Getting to mass IoT deployment. Mass IoT is of great interest at the moment generally, and that's a very timely report. And then IoT for logistics, managing supply chains everywhere. Now, turning to healthcare, we look at 6 key segments of connected healthcare, and it really follows the patient's journey through the healthcare system. So you can start with, well, depending on where you want to start, you could start with ambulance and emergency room is like when they come in, the in-hospital stay, nursing home or care home, and then moving to at-home or chronic illness care, then GP and other surgeries, and then the final piece is pharma and life sciences research. So if you take those 6 as being key areas for IoT, then the critical need is for to update the electronic medical record at each stage. So how would you do that? Well, connectivity to do that, and then there are various associated applications as well. So very briefly, we've created a connected healthcare chart, which is actually freely available on our website at beechamresearch.com, which basically tries to put together a view of the activities in healthcare and the associated IoT applications. So we'll take the breakout there of care home and nursing home at the center, and then in the middle we've got the healthcare type of activities like assisted living and patient tracking and stuff like that. And then the outer layer are the IoT applications that tend to go with those types of activities. So you can see that there are a lot of areas where IoT can be of assistance in the healthcare sector. So it's moving along pretty fast now. And I'm now going to introduce you to Curtis at FlowLive, and he's going to say a few words about FlowLive. Over to you, Curtis.
Excellent. Thank you, Robin, and thank you to the IMC for hosting this event. Welcome to all the participants there. My name is Curtis Govan. I'm president of Americas for Flow Live. Just a bit of introduction to the company here. We're a UK-based company, founded in 2016. We have R&D center in Israel, primarily there. We also have regional offices in Europe, North America, and Asia, including in our investors. We have Qualcomm, Dell, 83 North, and Savin Ventures are our lead VCs there. In terms of what we do as a company, we are an IoT global connectivity and connectivity infrastructure company. And one thing, two things I want to point out about our company and the technologies that we have before I get into exactly what technologies we have. First, understand that we develop and we fully own all of our technology. We didn't buy it, we built it from the ground up, and we own the IP. And secondly, everything we deploy is able to deploy cloud native. Why are these important? Because it gives us really the autonomy to customize solutions to fully meet the requirements that we see across the IoT sector, but specifically for the healthcare industry. So those solutions, so a little bit about the solutions. First, we have a fully virtualized core network that includes 4G and 5G. We have dozens of core networks that are deployed for our global connectivity around the world. And then in addition to that, we have core networks that are fully private that we deploy for private networks, including for healthcare solutions there, for hospitals, as an example. We have a real-time connectivity management platform that really makes it seamless and easy to automate the management of the connectivity. We look at the overall perspective of the connectivity management platform is to really completely abstract connectivity from the solution in terms of management. So focus on, rather than focusing on the connectivity, our customers are able to focus on the solutions and delivering the solutions, getting the value add out of the solutions that they're adding, that they're providing. Next, we have a patented smart SIM that's really critical. It's kind of the heart of our system that allows you to connect to the multiple networks, take a single SIM, use that globally wherever you go. And then we have a full stack BSS. This is something that I don't believe anyone in the industry has, because it allows us to not only focus on IoT, to go beyond IoT connectivity services and actually go to the application and the full management of that with a hierarchy that's built to support any business structure you have, including workflows and all of the necessary things that you need for billing as well for the full solution there. And lastly, but certainly most very important to our solution is the multiple local and global mobile network operator relationships that we have in the world. And then if I pivot a little bit and just talk specifically what we do for healthcare. For healthcare, and we'll talk about this throughout the session here, is we deliver 4G and 5G mobile private networks. When you look at those networks and combine it with the MNO relationships that I mentioned, it allows us to deliver what we call hyper-local global connectivity. What does that mean? That means the single SIM that I mentioned before allows you to go anywhere in the world and be able to connect to multiple networks, both local, private, public networks, and seamlessly have that device connected. So you have this scenario where the device can be always on, and not just always connected, but it's connected to the network with the highest performance and highest reliability. So we see this as something when you look at the key requirements for healthcare, having a device that's always connected, that's secure, that has the best performance is really key requirements for the solutions there. So that's a little bit about our company. I'll just note that if you want to hear more about our company, feel free to connect with us directly. But we'll also be at CES at booth number 10943A, and hopefully we get to see you there in the IoT zone. Thank you. Back to you, Rob.
Great, thanks very much, Curtis. And then we'd like to hand over to Ritesh at Aris.
All right, thank you, Robin, and thanks everyone for joining the session today. My name is Ritesh Patel. I head product marketing at Aris. So let me just again introduce the company itself, Aris Communications. We are a global IoT connectivity provider. We provide connectivity to millions of healthcare IoT devices and many more across other segments as well. Our Eris IoT network is built exclusively for IoT from ground up with integrated intelligence, and it helps deliver additional value add to our customers in terms of helping organizations automate, optimize, and secure their IoT solutions. It's built and operated by a global team of dedicated engineers. And as a connectivity partner, we've helped customers streamline their IoT programs and have helped them successfully launch, manage, and scale those programs to millions of devices over the years. Now, let me turn to a topic of security and data privacy and security in healthcare. And in context of the broader IoT, which includes healthcare, I would like to share sort of a few threat events that we have helped customers mitigate before they turn to an active attack. But before that, I want to state that companies are generally following best practices, but vulnerabilities do get introduced. And these are some of the examples that can't be addressed, what we have found by encryption alone in most cases. So the first, starting from left, is connectivity misuse, which is, we sometimes see misuse of connectivity where SIM cards are pointing at streaming services or social media platforms after a SIM swap or an IMEI change that occurs. And this is one of the simpler events that can be detected and mitigated quickly. Second is the IoT device snooping event, unbeknownst to IoT solution providers. Oftentimes, in this situation, the devices are compromised and they continue to behave normally, but they're also connecting to unauthorized endpoints and endpoint services in unauthorized countries. So if IoT solution providers do not have the right visibility, this event could go unnoticed until an unexpected event occurs, such as increase in data usage, or the threat turns into an active attack. Third and the last is weaponized IoT devices. Again, compromised devices acting normally, but they demonstrate even more sophisticated behavior. These types of attacks often start with behaviors like port scans, where compromised devices are part of the solution. They're scanning the authorized endpoints of your applications in cloud for open ports and trying to find an opening to infiltrate and inject malware across the infrastructure to facilitate potential malicious activity. So these are some of the vulnerabilities that an IoT solution provider should be mindful of as they think about securing end-to-end solution, especially in healthcare. And these are challenges that we are helping our customers in healthcare and broadly detect and address early on using intelligence that's integrated as part of our IoT connectivity network. With that, I'll pass it back to you, Robin.
Super. Thanks very much, Ritesh. And then hand it over to Christy at Core for your introduction to Core. Christy, are you?
Thanks, Robin.
Great.
I am here. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Robin. and thank you to IMC for the CES preview. I'm wishing everybody a very cheerful morning here this morning with us. As Robin said, my name is Christy Swanson. I am a Senior Vice President of Connected Health at our core business practice. To put it very simply, Core Wireless is a global company that focuses on enabling IoT technology for our customers. We've been advising healthcare customers for close to a decade. We've developed very robust and scalable offerings that really cater and provide benefits to the challenges that healthcare and life science companies face. We provide services that span across the supply chain to meet our customer challenges and achieve real business outcomes. In doing so, we've built a very vast business ecosystem of partners to assist us and our customers to successfully deploy IoT. Some examples of those services include global hardware procurement for standard medical sensors and gateways with tools to accurately track and manage inventory, deployment logistics, including device configuration, kitting, shipping, and returns management, installation and configuration of applications like mobile device management, as well as the tools that provide visibility and control of those devices in your fleet of network of devices. We also have developed a secure data telemetry architecture and platform to enable pre-registration and association of BLE or Bluetooth devices, collecting data consistently and, most importantly, securely. And that data can be sent to any virtual care platform out there today. And of course, connectivity as a service has long been the core of what we do, no pun intended, but CORE does offer a multitude of technologies to support and really the expertise with 4G, 5G, LPWA technologies, as well as unlicensed networks. In addition, CORE has worked with regulations and sciences in the healthcare and life sciences space. And we have a portfolio of quality and regulatory compliance credentials required to perform such services, such as a QMS, several ISO certs, HIPAA and high-tech processes, procedures, and of course we have an FDA registered facility right here in Rochester, New York. To wrap this up, we've really built a practice of design and walk with our customers. We've identified, 49 in the IoT. We can address 44 of those through our many years of healthcare, successfully and efficiently, and of course with scale. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the world for connected health. And, the simple answer to this question is yes, of course we are. Most industries, the healthcare sector is increasingly recognizing the transformative nature of IoT technology. This is also very much accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, also by some of the shifts that we are starting to see emerge. Absolutely see a global connected health market. Have, a world of aging population.
Okay, I think that Christy has a few difficulties on her connection, so we'll see what happens there. So we're going to move now anyway to the discussion part of this, and we really wanted to do this in 3 parts. So we wanted to start by looking at IoT solutions for healthcare, then looking at IoT security in healthcare, the element that Ritesh was particularly talking about, and then IoT infrastructure for healthcare, which is the area that Curtis was particularly looking at. Now, I did want to start with the IoT solutions for healthcare, which is then primarily Christy's area. But I'm not sure whether Christy can actually hear us. Christy, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can. You're breaking up a bit. It might be better if you dialed in or accessed it some other way. But we'll try and see how it goes. So my first question is really for you, actually, anyway, Christy. In IoT solutions for healthcare, how have IoT solutions in healthcare improved patient satisfaction and overall engagement, would you say? Okay, I think we're having a bit of a difficulty with Christy there. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll come back to the IoT solutions part, and in the meantime, we'll go on to IoT security in healthcare, which was Ritesh's part. So Ritesh, perhaps you could talk to us about how would you see the impact of an IoT cyber attack when it comes to healthcare?
Thanks, Robin. So certainly not trying to, scare people away from building connected solutions in IoT and, using in healthcare particularly. But, like I had mentioned in my introduction, that vulnerabilities do exist, and companies are trying their best, making sure that they're implementing best practices to keep their solutions as well as their customers secure. And when we talk about, or we think about sort of the broad impacts of IoT cyber attacks, I can think of three categories on how I can bucketize them. One is safety and privacy, second is financial impact, and third is brand. From safety and privacy perspective, right? Patients are key. Their personal safety is topmost priority. So if an organization is building a future technological sort of care delivery model, security needs to be part of that core from the core solution architecture at the onset, and there needs to and security needs to be part of that focused effort that they put there, and especially now when it comes to building this model, it is dependent on the types of devices, what the application is, and how close is it in monitoring patient health or managing a health condition on an ongoing basis. And the closer that device is in helping patient manage their health conditions, the more hardened my point of view is that the security needs to be, and more integrated that security needs to be as part of that solution. From a financial impact perspective, we certainly know impact to companies that are attacked is significant. But in the recent years, you can see attacks are becoming sophisticated, and the SolarWinds attack that happened, which was more in the IT world, was a software supply chain attack. But not only did it impact SolarWinds, but it impacted their customers in a way bigger way than the direct impact that SolarWinds had felt. And then the third is certainly brand, the impact of brand from a long-term perspective, rebuilding and regaining that trust, through specifically in healthcare, trust of your patients that the solution is serving, of the customers, care providers. Again, takes a lot of resources and energy. And again, you don't want, as an organization building those solutions, want to be mindful of these areas and how your solution, how important security plays a role in helping your solution to be successful in delivering the patient care for using your through that connected solution.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's great. Christy, I believe you're back. Are you?
I am, Robin. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully now. Yes, it's perfect. No breakups at all. We're going to stay with the... Great. We're going to stay with the security elements at the moment, and then we'll go back to the solutions bit in a little while. But I have a question for you, which is, how have IT solutions and IoT Safe helped to assure patient privacy? So Ritesh has been talking about IoT security overall for healthcare, but perhaps you can give us a little bit of the direct word on IoT Safe.
Sure, absolutely, Robin. So IoT Safe is a technology that leverages the SIM as a root of trust. So basically, it's able to deliver a common procedure to secure IoT data communications with a reliable SIM, rather than using a proprietary or possibly less secure hardware element in the device. And it's capable with all SIM form factors, such as your standard SIM, your eSIM, or your iSIM. So, we're really taking the headache out of, securing solutions across, cellular connectivity, and really bringing it down to the actual SIM that's connecting to the network. So IoT Safe is a great avenue for companies that are looking to develop their own type of connected devices, or devices that will be used in, in an application use case type format, let's say for like clinical studies, or even RPM, remote patient monitoring, to ensure that safety and security is there because it's built into the SIM itself.
That's great. Yes. So Ritesh, I don't know if you have a few words on IoT Safe relating to what you were saying just now.
Yeah, certainly. Let's talk about it. I think IoT Safe is great. It certainly helps, to make it easy to help authenticate and authorize, access of devices to the network and to the cloud services. And I'll do a yes and, right? So if you have an opportunity to use IoT Safe, use it in your solutions, and also think about access. So there are two sides of the coins: identity and access. If you take a simple example of letting someone in your house, it would really depend on who that individual is, how closely are they related to you, and so identity is great from IoT Safe perspective. You can quickly authenticate and authorize access, but then managing that access in terms of what level of access from where and how much needs to also be governed, and that's something. Not all IoT devices can potentially do it at the edge as well. So just thinking about it from a broader perspective of that, again, end-to-end security, look at the solution and identify technology partners who can also help you, govern that access and provide you abilities by which you can control the type of or the level of access that you're offering these devices and from where that access is being requested.
Great. Okay. And Curtis, could you say a little bit about your perspective on security as well? Now, I know that FlowLive is also involved with IoT Safe. I mean, IoT Safe is particularly related to cellular, which is the main technology, I think, that the three of us or four of us are talking about today. But could you just say a few words about FlowLive's perspective on security? And that will lead us into a later discussion as well. Sorry, Curtis, can you hear me? You're on mute, probably.
Oh, I'm good now. All right.
Good.
On IoT Safe, I think what I'd like to share is what I've heard from one of our customers as they were explaining it to one of their customers that was developing a solution there, and they're concerned about the security aspect of it. And the analogy they drew with IoT Safe is, if you look at what you do with credit card transactions and the SIM card that's in the credit card, and the most danger you have at the credit card is with the actual physical SIM. When it's actually transmitting the transaction, that's the most secure aspect of the transaction there. So when you see it, when you look at it from that perspective, you realize that adding that security while the data is moving from one place to another is highly critical. And you have that parallel industry where individuals can connect to it, right? They know that, oh, my credit card, if it's with me, it's safe. And when I put it in this machine, what this machine does is it encrypts the transaction so that no one's able to capture my data as it's crossing and traversing the internet. So I think this is something that really relates to the lay people that don't understand the details of the technology, but they certainly can relate to that aspect. And then when we look at the added piece of security is, okay, now you have the two endpoints, and how do you ensure that those endpoints are secure as well? And one of the things that certainly we talk about is the actual infrastructure and where the infrastructure is hosted. In particular, going into private infrastructure, mobile private networks for 4G and 5G, where you can increase the security by putting the infrastructure at one place and keeping it there.
Yes. Okay, that's great, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes, actually, if that's okay with you. I'd now like to try and cover the piece that I was going to cover with Christy earlier on, which is the IoT solutions for healthcare. So, Christy, I managed to ask you the question: how have IoT solutions in healthcare improved patient satisfaction and overall engagement? You might be able to answer now.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, connected health solutions have really changed the way in which, we engage with our own personal health. with the multitude of wearable devices and sensors and applications that are out there that allow us to engage truly in the ownership of our own well-being and health. I mean, at the end of it, I would say we've been empowered, right, with data that we can now use and take in collaboration with our healthcare providers to make really informed decisions about our own care, not to mention the benefits, to early detection or avoidance of chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, and of course, diabetes. And, I'm a person who suffers from a few autoimmune diseases myself. So, having lived this and being able to collect those various, vitals and log of, how I'm feeling on a certain day versus another has really helped me and my doctor to manage my flare-ups better, and even take steps to know what to do and to try and avoid those flare-ups. So I think, the bottom line is, IoT solutions have just really empowered, patients and really giving us an ownership to our health and own well-being.
Great. I'd like to follow up with a quick question, if I may, is how can companies best see ROI when deploying healthcare IoT solutions?
So IoT can be used in many ways to see ROI, such as in improving or reinventing a customer or patient process or engagement, and it can be used to build new business models and revenue streams. I like to think that the answer to this question is relatively simple, but in my experience, it's sometimes difficult because we take all the necessary time to spend in gathering all the resources and collecting all the data. But in order to really truly see an ROI, you must be able to take that data and drive, a business outcome. And that's where, a lot of companies that I've worked with have really struggled. And some of the things that, we can do here at CORE is really lean in on the expertise that we've built, working with other customers through this industry, the journey that we've created. We can really take that and help customers realize those business outcomes to really see a true return on investment.
Great. Okay, that's terrific. I'm going to now move back to Curtis, if I may. And Curtis, you were talking a bit about infrastructure for healthcare just now. Perhaps we could just focus in on one aspect of that, which is Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is often used for healthcare in hospitals and stuff like that. But just how effective is that? I mean, are there some limitations in Wi-Fi, would you say, moving forward?
Yeah, Robin, I don't know if you can navigate back to one of my slides that I was going to share on the healthcare solution that we have. This covers the needs that a hospital came to us and they said, these are the primary requirements that we need. And I think if you build it out a little bit there, you'll see kind of the overall, and you'll see where you see the separation between Wi-Fi and cellular. First I would say, a few points in just how massive the industry is and why we're so focused on it, and kind of leads into why the problem has increased. We have one study from IoT Healthcare that says that the market for IoT healthcare is $163 billion as of 2020. And if you look at that by comparison for the smartphone market, which most of us have smartphones, so we can appreciate that, smartphone market is about $500 billion. So you're looking at a market that is roughly the third the size of smartphones, which is massive. And then the other thing that's really critical here from a hospital perspective in general is that a large metropolitan hospital will have as many as 85,000 connected devices in addition to all of their standard computer systems, right? So it's a massive system. The more devices you get in, it adds a complexity there. One of the things that you see here in two things I think that I'll say are common for cellular private networks and for Wi-Fi is the fact that you need security and adherence and privacy. That's common across both. I think we equally or equal in that perspective in terms of providing the security. The IoT Safe, I will say, actually adds another layer of security there, so there's an enhancement there. There's also a little bit more flexibility in terms of controlling unauthorized devices from a cellular perspective versus Wi-Fi. The other thing that we look at here in the requirements that I'd say is in common is that you need to be able to easily integrate with the IT environment. One thing that we found, and I was happened to be at a few hospitals over the last few months, unfortunately, but all's healthy and safe there. But as I powered up my phone and I had limited access for cellular, which obviously is a great case for private cellular, but I moved over to the Wi-Fi networks and I saw 3 different Wi-Fi networks that were for IoT devices there. So they're able to easily integrate with these local IT systems. But for cellular, we find that the bifurcation of the cellular and the Wi-Fi networks or the local LAN networks is a lot easier. You simply plug one and you have a completely separate path that you have for the cellular networks. Where we really get into the differentiators are performance. And that's the high latency or low latency, high throughput requirements that you have for some applications. The ability to be able to dynamically control the quality of service so that if you have an emergency scenario, you can move low criticality devices off or reduce their QoS. And for those high need devices there, you can increase their QoS dynamically on the cellular network, which is something that you can't do with Wi-Fi. The other thing that we see in terms of having that device always connected is that continuity of if you have someone that's moving between locations within a hospital, when they're moving off-site to on-site and the reverse of that, that ability is really critical that you can do with cellular that you can't do with Wi-Fi as easily. And then that always connected piece is really tied to that as well, where we see that you really need to have these devices always connected. And on the cellular network, there's a combination of the cellular network. When we combine all of our solutions, we can notify you proactively when a device is off the cellular network, which is not something that you can do on Wi-Fi. But we have the monitoring tools along with our connectivity management platform that comes native with the private core network that allows you to monitor those devices from a network perspective, not just from the device reporting perspective and the back-end system there. So that really, if you look at the key differentiators from Wi-Fi and cellular, it's really about the performance aspects that you need with cellular.
That's great. That's great. Thanks very much. I'd now like to shoot back to something that. Hang on, I'm trying to make this work. There we go. So yeah, back to Ritesh. So Ritesh, you were talking about security, and I'd just like to come back to that briefly. What would you say? So we've talked about IoT Safe, but what would you say companies are doing today to keep solutions and customers secure?
I think at the at very tactical level, I think companies are looking at they're first of all being more aware of security, and they're considering now security to be part of the design phase, right? Secure by design, implement best practices. They are seriously considering, and we're talking about IoT Safe, so authentication, ensuring that there is a way to authenticate and authorize in a secure way, encrypting data as it moves from device to the network to the cloud. Specifically at the network level, what we have seen is, and what we are encouraging our customers as well, is to use private APNs or access point names, moving to instead of using public DNS, moving to private DNS to eliminate some of the challenges that you might face with using public DNS from a security perspective. Using or leveraging interconnect with VPN or TLS type technologies. They're also looking at following best practices from standard bodies like NIST or GSMA and HIPAA for patient privacy as well. So those are some of the standard things that we see customers doing day in and day out. But again, I think, as I mentioned in the intro, there are some challenges, like from a security perspective. We're not just looking at, transacting data from an endpoint in a secure way, from a device to an authorized endpoint in a secure way, but attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated. And now, you are seeing situations where potentially, if a device that, let's say that IT solution provider has, is using a third-party manufacturer, and what are their practices or standards from a security perspective? If they have a vulnerability in the firmware that they have on the device, and if that's vulnerable, and if somehow their access is, compromised to the device, attackers are looking for those types of opportunities, leveraging those opportunities to go in and inject those devices with harmful, with malicious sort of code that could go in and start looking for vulnerabilities in the broader infrastructure, looking for that window to penetrate it.
Once they're in, they can then sort of move outwards from that. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, exactly, and could cause more harm. So that element of, having that early onset visibility, understanding the behavior of the devices on the network, it becomes very critical. And being able to intelligently identify those behaviors from known and unknown threats, and being able to mitigate them quickly is what is also the important element of securing that end-to-end IoT solution.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So, Christy, I'd like to jump in with another one for you. What are the challenges in deploying a remote patient monitoring solution, an RPM, and understanding what telemetry solutions can provide?
Sure, Robin. I think the biggest challenge in deploying RPM solutions, so remote patient monitoring solutions, is actually just building one. There is, significant investment in deploying, maintaining, and scaling these solutions, and that it stems from hardware selection and validation. You've got rapid life cycles of commercial type devices that might be used. Finding a suite of medical sensors that can be interchanged with a hub type device, and taking the time to integrate those devices and sensors while adhering to the various different regulatory requirements for each geography or even country in some cases. You've got BLE, manual pairing process, which doesn't always scale and can limit the accuracy of data and provide a poor patient experience ultimately. And then the securing of network and data telemetry transmission to the cloud, as well as various other different regulatory and compliances. And then, of course, you have the varied connectivity partners to deploy these types of solutions on to manage globally as well. So, what Core has done is really built the infrastructure and best practices for deploying telemetry solutions. So, from healthcare networks to payer networks to virtual care companies and other medtech companies that might be looking to do RPM, you can use, our platform and the architecture that we've built to move forward very cost effectively to the market and allow yourself, scalability on that as well.
Great. That's super. And Curtis, I'd like to come back to you then with a little bit more of this sort of infrastructure type of build. What would you say are the use cases, particularly for 5G private, excuse me, the 5G private networks in healthcare? What are the places where 5G private networks can really excel?
Yeah, I'll go back to the key differentiator of performance, and you'll see most of the use cases are surrounding that. The first one that I imagine most people would see, because it's the sexiest one, is the remote surgery solutions there. So you have a surgeon that's able to actually connect into anywhere in the world and perform a surgery. That one is the one because of the low latency requirement there is extremely critical. Like you can imagine, you need to be super low latency, ultra low latency, particularly now that's a 5G application there. It's number one at the top. I think remote patient monitoring is also one that an application that is very necessary there. And in particular, what we look at is that you have sensors, wearables, e-health devices, the things that Christy mentioned, that they move, right? And it's important to have those always connected, being able to collect the information that they need and be able to adapt to the variable that is the environment that they're in. So the private network, the public network, and so on. That's really critical for those solutions there. I'll tell you, communication is, I think we probably take that for granted, but the ability for hospital staff to communicate with one another, and what we're seeing is many of the solutions are moving to push-to-talk solutions on the mobile private network. Again, it's important to be able to communicate at these critical times and get a hold of people and have that seamless communication. So we're seeing PTT as a really key requirement or solution for private networks as well. One that we mentioned, I'll tell you, it really ties into the ROI story. It's so simple, simple asset tracking that we see as well. And one of the studies that we saw, it showed that hospital staff, again, in a larger hospital, will spend as many as 40 hours a month looking for equipment. So the ability to know where that equipment is within the building is highly critical. Easy ROI there, and you can say, hey, what can we cut that down to? It's hours versus multiple hours there. Those are the ones that are at the top. Robotics is also one, again, because you need the low latency, and we're seeing a lot of efficiencies being built into solutions there, where you have robots that are doing kind of the repetitive task, like delivering meals and medicines and dispensing medicine, et cetera, within the hospital.
Great. That's terrific, Curtis. Thanks very much. We have time for one, probably maybe two questions from the audience. So I'm sorry it's taken a little while to get to them. We have Douglas, who's asked, I'd like to ask the panelists if they have participated or seen successful IoT projects using consumer-branded wearables, either Samsung, Apple, Xiaomi, Huawei, Garmin, or Fitbit. So I don't know if anybody can respond to that. Christy, that might be more one for you, perhaps. I don't know.
Absolutely. I was just going to jump in here. So, yes, we have seen that. Specifically, we've seen that in the clinical services space. So when we're looking at biotechnology companies or pharma companies that are looking to, deploy solutions rather rapidly and in various parts of the world, right? You need devices that can, go to those parts of the world with the necessary, regulatory and compliance that there are out there. So yeah, absolutely, we've seen them use them in clinical studies, particularly in fast tracking, drug trials and moving new therapies to market. Specifically, we've also seen them use them in applications like cardiac monitoring and even at-home kidney dialysis setup. So absolutely, we see those consumer wearables and devices being used.
Great. So I don't know, Ritesh, whether you have any views on that from a security perspective, the consumer-branded wearables and the issues perhaps in security relating to that. I don't know if you got about a minute to say something about it if you've got something to say.
Sure. I think we've certainly, I'll echo what Christy has said. We've seen similar applications from a wearable perspective. One takeaway that I'll say is, every time if you're building a solution with wearables, understand who your device partners are, understand their security elements, because we certainly have seen situations where there are components within those wearables communicating to endpoints that they're not supposed to be communicating with, and of concern. So that becomes very critical when it comes to, securing patient data, securing patient health information, as well as your solutions. So important thing is to, make sure that you're partnering with the right technology partners that are providing sort of that have security as part of their core offering and is integrated as part of their solution.
Great. That's well. We're going to have to leave it there because we're right at the top of the hour, and I'd like to thank the speakers. So Curtis, Ritesh, and Christy for staying with it, and the slight variation that we had in in the questions. But for all of you in the audience, stay with us for the next track, which starts now at 11 a.m. ET. This is about IoT brings sustainability to public grids. So click on the link on the next page to automatically join the track. So hope you enjoy that. Probably not as much as this track, but hope that goes well for you. So thanks everybody for joining us, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.